Good evening. Welcome to Meetings with Our Community.
During Hispanic Heritage Month, September 15th through October 15th, we recognize the contributions made and the important presence of Hispanic and Latino Americans in the United States and celebrate their heritage and culture.
I want to say thank you to my God because He gave me the power to go to school. The school is the more important thing for everybody, especially for the community, Colombian community, Ecuadorian community. Today, I try to say to the people, don't forget the school. The school is the important thing, and it's the best around the whole world.
I work and I go to the shelters and I help, and I hope everybody take a little time to do that because we need a lot of people to do work with the animals that they very people abuse and they left alone, and they really need people who adopt them. Actually, is what we need right now, and I hope everybody help that cause. Thank you.
This event honored leaders for their outstanding work and devotion to improving the lives of Latinos in our country.
And that's why Hispanic Heritage Month is important, because we want to recognize people that have been doing the work, folks that have been in the trenches, people that have been advocating for our community that sometimes are invisible, not just to us, but to the rest of the community. And we need to embrace them, we need to celebrate them, and we need the world to know. And we have to have our children know about those stories, because those are going to be the role models that are going to show them that they can do it.
The Honorable Julissa Ferreras is the 21st Council District Chair and is on the Finance Committee.
So obviously it's very important not only for Latinos in Hispanic Heritage Month, but for you to go out and vote. So if you're not a citizen, you should come out to the office and make sure you become a citizen, and our offices help you out for free. If you are a citizen, you have to register to vote so that you can vote on November 4th. But more importantly, if you are a citizen and you're registered to vote, but your head hurts or your stomach hurts and you don't want to go out to vote on Election Day, that's no excuse. You have to go out and vote.
In 2014, New Yorkers will decide among candidates to fill elected offices in the United States Congress and in the executive and legislative branches of New York State government. Today, we're talking about the State Board of Elections. The State Board of Elections was established in the Executive Department on June 1st, 1974. The board is also responsible for regulating disclosure and limitations of a fair campaign code intended to govern campaign practices.
Hello, I'm Perez Hilton. Did you know that more people in the United States check their Facebook and watch the Super Bowl than exercise their right to vote? We've got some serious issues to deal with. So how come so many of us don't even bother to vote? Is it because we don't care? Or maybe it's because we don't know our history.
So let's go back, way back. Our country's first election came after fighting for our independence, a fight that cost many lives, but it was worth it because instead of being ruled by a king, we were finally able to make our own laws.
But not everybody was allowed to participate. You see, back then, you had to own property, be white, and a man in order to actually vote. Now, things continued that way for about 80 years, until after the Civil War, when slavery was abolished and all men were given the right to vote.
Now hold up a minute. Just because we had the right to vote didn't mean we could use it. See, all these new voters wanted to participate, which threatened the people in power and their ability to stay in power. So they tried to stop us with violence and shady new requirements like literacy tests and poll taxes. We had to fight for nearly 100 years before the Voting Rights Act passed, which finally outlawed these dirty tricks.
And you weren't the only ones that had to fight for your right to vote. Somehow women got left out and had to organize and fight state by state, until we took our fight to Washington and finally got our right to vote all across the country. And even once the laws guaranteed every person the ability to vote, you still had to be 21 in most states. So when our government began drafting people under 21 to go fight in Vietnam, they realized their lives were at stake and they had no say. Young people all across the country rose up in protest and demanded that everyone over 18 should be allowed to vote.
And since then, young people's votes have been crucial in deciding lots of big elections. Like in 2008, when a black candidate had a real chance to become president, young people showed up in record numbers. And every year, we make up a larger share of the voting population, giving young people more power, but only if we participate.
So let me break it down. Together, there is so much we can decide, like whether or not we should go to war, or how we spend our money, and how we power our lives.
We can determine who has the right to marry, and who has the right to choose, what possessions should be outlawed, and whether or not we should legalize.
It's up to you to make your choices and shape our future. If we sit on the sidelines, then others will make it work for them instead of us. So let's make our voices heard.
So what would it take for you to vote?
Many New Yorkers don't have access to a vehicle, so schlepping an old TV or computer to be recycled isn't easy. That's why the Department of Sanitation partnered with Electronic Recyclers International to create eCycle NYC. This free and convenient electronics recycling program is for residential buildings over 10 units. Learn more at nyc.gov/ecycle.
Growing up, I saw a lot of kids get bullied, and I know you see it too because it's pretty common. But like a lot of kids, I often stood by and did nothing to stop it, which was wrong. Bullying is never okay. It hurts in the moment and causes harm which can last a lifetime. The good news is you can make a difference. Be more than just a bystander, take action, and do something to stop bullying. October is National Bullying Prevention Awareness Month. Let's all work together to stop bullying. Pulling someone down will never take you to great heights. Teamwork makes the dream work at NASA. There is no space for bullying. Check out stopbullying.gov for more information.
Hello, I'm Arnie Duncan, U.S. Secretary of Education. A lot of national attention has been focused on bullying and harassment, including a White House Bullying Summit and guidance from our Department of Education. We're concerned because nearly a third of students between 12 and 18 years old report being bullied in school. These children and youth are more likely to develop symptoms of depression, have suicidal thoughts, avoid school, have lower academic performance, or even harm themselves. In an important Dear Colleague letter to educators, we lay out our concerns about these issues. We describe the legal obligations schools have under federal anti-discrimination laws when student misconduct involves harassment of a protected class. Although not all bullying is harassment and not all harassment is bullying, schools need to clearly understand the differences and their legal obligations with respect to both. While anti-bullying policies are an important tool for addressing student misconduct, schools can't always rely on those policies alone. They must be able to address discriminatory harassment as required under federal civil rights laws. And even when bullying or harassment isn't a civil rights violation, we expect schools to help prevent those behaviors so all students can be safe from the physical and emotional harms that they may cause. We hope this video will help schools, students, and their families understand schools' obligations under federal law to respond to harassment. A website shown at the end of the video will lead you to more resources. Thank you so much for watching and for your commitment to keeping all of our children safe.
Hello, I'm Morgan Freeman. I'm here to talk to you about harassment and bullying in our schools. As you just heard Arnie Duncan say, too many of our young people don't feel safe in school. We have to change that, and together we can. Come learn with me what we and our schools can do and must do to end harassment. First, it's important for everyone to understand what harassment is. Harassing conduct may take many forms, including threats, physical assaults, and verbal and written abuse. This conduct may be physically threatening, degrading, or humiliating. Harassment can happen in person or by phone or on the internet. It's important to remember that not all bullying constitutes harassment. And not all harassment is a form of bullying. While federal law does not specify what a school's response to bullying should be, schools may have obligations under their own state laws. Schools do, however, have legal obligations under federal laws when it comes to discriminatory harassment.
The U.S. Departments of Justice and Education enforce federal civil rights laws that protect students from harassment. These laws protect students from harassment when it's based on their actual or perceived race, color, national origin, sex, which may include gender identity, gender expression, and pregnancy, religion, and disability. Under these laws, harassment is defined as unwelcome conduct based on a protected class. What does harassment look like? A group of Asian American students at a high school is harassed daily, physically assaulted, taunted, and told by other students to go back to China, forcing them to walk around the building to get to class. This is harassment based on students' race and national origin. Comments are made to Muslim students and students perceived to be Muslim, mocking their culture and suggesting the students are terrorists. One Muslim student is told that he will be beaten up for having a copy of the Quran in his locker. A fight breaks out between the targeted students and the offending students. This is harassment based on national origin and religion. Classmates of a gay high school student write anti-gay slurs and sexual comments on his locker and physically assault, threaten, and ridicule him because he does not conform to stereotypical notions of how teenage boys are expected to act and appear. Title IX prohibits harassment of all students, even if the harasser and target are members of the same sex. Although Title IX does not prohibit discrimination based solely on sexual orientation, this example also includes sexual harassment and harassment based on sex stereotypes because this student was harassed for failing to act as some of his peers believed a boy should act. Harassment creates a hostile environment when the conduct is sufficiently serious to interfere with or limit a student's ability to participate in or benefit from the school's program on the basis of a protected class. Federal civil rights laws require a school district to investigate harassing incidents and to respond appropriately. Whether a hostile environment exists is evaluated from both the student's subjective perspective and objectively. Harassment has to be more than just casual or isolated incidents to create a hostile environment. The more severe the conduct, the less need there is to show repeated incidents, especially if the harassment involves physical conduct. Schools must address all incidents of harassment to ensure these incidents never escalate into a hostile environment.
If harassment is tolerated or ignored, it can impact the entire school climate and undermine everyone's sense of safety in the learning environment, not just the targeted students.
Schools have to address all incidents of harassment about which they know or reasonably should have known. But how are schools expected to know about harassment that's occurring? Schools should start by training all employees so everyone knows how to recognize harassment and respond appropriately when it happens. Harassment complaints can be filed locally or with the appropriate federal agencies that handle such claims. Schools may become aware of harassment from a variety of sources. Once the school knows about harassment, or should know about it, then it's responsible for addressing it. Once a school knows about harassment, it must promptly and impartially investigate to find out what happened and whether discriminatory conduct occurred. Investigations are important because they may reveal that the situation can be easily resolved, or they may reveal that the incident was more serious than first appeared, or that certain students have engaged in repeated acts of harassment. If a school finds that harassment that has created a hostile environment has occurred, immediate action must be taken to end the harassment, eliminate the hostile environment, and prevent recurrence and retaliation. Failure to take these actions is a violation of federal civil rights laws.
Schools can effectively respond to harassment while complying with civil rights laws by taking reasonable steps to stop harassment when it occurs, eliminate any hostile environment, and prevent its recurrence. This may include providing targets of harassment with counseling, academic support services like tutoring and other services, and providing perpetrators of harassment with counseling and other services.
Schools can't prevent all harassment before it happens or know about every incident of student misconduct, but they should create safe school climates that support positive behavior and let the community know that harassment and other forms of discrimination are not tolerated. Schools should make sure that everyone knows about harassment policies and how to report any problems, including making policies available to limited English proficient students and parents in a language they understand. Civil rights laws and guidance provide that schools should have three things. 1. A non-discrimination policy that is widely published. 2. Grievance procedures for students to file harassment complaints that are easily accessed. And 3. A coordinator for compliance with civil rights laws. Everyone needs to know who that person is and how to contact him or her. When harassment occurs, the school's first priority is to restore the learning environment for everyone. The school should directly address the harassing behaviors and provide students who engage in those behaviors with the social, behavioral, and mental health supports they need. Suspension, expulsion, and other consequences that remove students from the learning environment should be a last resort, because merely removing students from the classroom may worsen behavior without addressing why the conduct was impermissible or providing the student with necessary guidance about how to behave at school. These students may have faced significant mental or emotional health challenges of their own, and these issues must be addressed with supportive approaches like multi-tiered behavioral supports and social-emotional learning if educators are to create safe school climates in which all students can learn. Finally, it's a good idea to work with the school community to develop and periodically review policies to ensure that they support a positive school climate and create an environment that encourages communication about what's going on, what's wrong, and what's working. Making sure everyone is fully aware of policies is vital, as is making sure everyone is trained.
There are many resources to help schools understand harassment, civil rights laws, and even receive free training and technical assistance in building their responses, both within schools and as partners with the community. Go to stopbullying.gov to find out more. Schools have a responsibility to create safe learning environments for all students. When harassment is based on a protected class and creates a hostile environment, Schools have an obligation under federal civil rights laws to take action. The U.S. Departments of Education and Justice are committed to ensuring this obligation is met, and the Department of Health and Human Services supports this effort.
I'm Michael Strahan, and I love New York. There's no place like it in the world. My favorite thing is the excitement of the outdoors, like rock climbing in the Catskills, rafting in the Adirondacks, surfing on Long Island, or getting your heart racing at Watkins Glen International. Come discover your favorite part of New York. Plan your summer vacation at iloveny.com. There's something for everyone.
We all want to prevent bullying. It's a clear goal, but how we stop bullying behavior is not always clear.
Bullying is very complex. It's critical that we keep in mind some potential misdirections when we're thinking about trying to prevent bullying.
Bullying is a complex issue. As a result, some approaches that work well in other situations may be problematic when applied to bullying. We'll discuss 5 misdirections to avoid. Zero tolerance or 3 strikes and you're out policies are often used by schools in reaction to violent offenses, like carrying weapons or fighting. When it comes to bullying, zero tolerance is typically ineffective or can even make the bullying situation worse. Zero tolerance is not recommended because it's unrealistic and disruptive, given the number of students involved in bullying. It doesn't allow for intervention and may isolate children who bully from needed role models. Suspended or expelled students may have a lack of supervision when they stay home, and severe punishments can deter reporting.
When there's a zero tolerance policy in place, sometimes that can actually cut down on the number of individuals that are comfortable reporting bullying offense. They might be afraid of the zero tolerance policy or view it as too harsh or just solely punitive in nature and doesn't actually provide an opportunity for intervention to stop the problem.
Conflict resolution and peer mediation can be effective ways to address many types of student conflicts, but not bullying. Conflict resolution and peer mediation is not recommended because it implies both parties bear responsibility and may further victimize the target.
In the case of bullying, we don't have a situation where there's just a disagreement. It's a situation of abuse. Quite often the victim doesn't really want to be seen in the role as a victim and doesn't want to be identified or brought out or made to feel even more emotionally targeted or physically targeted within that group. And bringing them face to face with the perpetrator often can validate those roles and that power differential between them.
Some schools address bullying behavior by implementing group therapeutic treatments like anger management counseling or empathy building. Group therapeutic treatment is not recommended because group members may model bad behavior, and group treatment that involves aggressors and children who are bullied can reinforce bullying behavior.
Similarly, you wouldn't want to have a group where you brought together victims and perpetrators within the same group, because that might serve to be very disempowering for the children that were targets of bullying. It could also reinforce that power differential between them.
Bullycide is a term that's come into recent use and should be avoided. This term suggests the overly simplistic notion that a suicide may be caused by only one factor. Those who actively work to prevent bullying can help prevent bad outcomes, including suicide. But bullying prevention efforts do not, in and of themselves, constitute suicide prevention. Although bullying may be a factor in suicide risk, it is often not the only one.
We also know that suicidal ideation is pretty common among youth. During adolescence, there are issues around impulsivity that very well could lead to a suicide that is actually completed. So it's important for us to be aware of that potential link between mental health and suicide and the role that bullying could serve within that. but we don't want to overstate that link here. We also want to be cautious to clarify that there isn't an epidemic of these concerns, but when there are certain instances of bullying that are linked in some way with suicide, that we recognize the role other factors like mental health could play in them.
Some schools address bullying as a topic on a single day during a staff training session, a parent-teacher meeting, an assembly, or even in the classroom. These types of efforts can represent important initial steps of a comprehensive long-term bullying prevention strategy, but they may not be effective in reducing bullying problems if implemented in a piecemeal way.
Independent or piecemeal types of approaches probably are really not going to be impactful. They might very well raise awareness during that one day, but they're not going to be sustainable types of efforts. So we really recommend having a more comprehensive and integrated approach that involves a variety of activities. Even though there are a number of misdirections we should really try to avoid in our bullying prevention efforts, there are a number of reasons why communities and practitioners should be optimistic about the issue of bullying prevention. There are a number of best practices that have been identified, and we also recognize the importance of the research documenting significant impacts of bullying on youth development and youth outcomes. So this is a critical time for us to take stock on the research and to identify what best practices and some potential strategies we should avoid.
So how do we prevent and stop bullying? It takes a comprehensive approach to help create the right culture for children and youth. StopBullying.gov is a resource developed by experts in the field to help develop long-term solutions that inspire a safe, respectful culture in your school and community. Visit StopBullying.gov for more information.
Allie, what are you texting about so early?
Shiz, I guess.
Jacob, who's texting you?
It's just Alex. He's just texting about the football game.
Bullying is a problem that can affect any family, and electronic and cyberbullying is a growing concern. How would you know that your child is being bullied? What would you do about it? Introducing No Bullying, a free app for your smartphone that's designed to help prevent bullying. Based on years of research and expert input, No Bullying can help you start a daily conversation with your kids that's designed to build resilience and prevent bullying issues. In fact, just 15 minutes a day of guided conversation can open a healthy dialogue with your child. The app features conversation starters, and you can set up profiles for all your kids. There are even reminders, because regular conversations are the key. Try No Bullying and put the power to prevent bullying in your hand. It's available free in your smartphone's app store.
Many New Yorkers don't have access to a vehicle, so schlepping an old TV or computer to be recycled isn't easy. That's why the Department of Sanitation partnered with Electronic Recyclers International to create eCycle NYC. This free and convenient electronics recycling program is for residential buildings over 10 units. Learn more at nyc.gov/ecycle.
Thank you for watching Meetings with Our Community. We hope that you have enjoyed our show, and we hope to see you next week.